And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean, beautiful day out here in Southern California. And I know for fans of the Rams in Southern California, they're going nuts as far as that goes. They make the Super Bowl. They beat the San Francisco 49ers on what was a crazy zany game with some interceptions being dropped by some really good players. But that is what it is as far as that happens. We're going to go over that game first, and then after that we'll talk about the kind of a quick instant breakdown of the Chiefs and the Bengals, where the Bengals upset the Chiefs, and then we'll go right into the Raiders new GM and new head coach. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I think that's 2 weekends straight football games, all decided by a field goal or less. So can't complain. Some overtime games in there too. I feel bad for Bills fans. If the Bills could have figured out how to win that game in Kansas City,
the pain.
I think there's a good chance they'd be lifting the Lombardi Trophy in 2 weeks, but they didn't. So
I mean, they seem like the best team overall, but they couldn't get it done. Time management and also some just pure poor decisions. Ryan and I are texting back and forth. We still don't understand this defensive philosophy of the free release on Travis Kelce. I don't understand how people are doing that. Let's go to early game. Let's mix up real quick. So I thought that 21-3. I think that they thought the game was over a little bit, and they kind of played like that a little bit offensively. But to hold that team in that moment to 3 points or less, and they used the defense that you and I are not fond of, rushing three. But they did a good job rushing three, and they were relentless in that pursuit of Mahomes. And they really did a good job of shutting out Tyreek Hill in the second half. Travis Kelce didn't go nuts. They forced other people to kind of win for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bengals did, and Zach Taylor and Joey Burrow, they're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this game for me goes back to the decision by Kansas City at the end of the first half to not take the field goal and go up 24-10 and give yourself a 2-touchdown lead. I know they're trying to be aggressive. They wanted to make it 28-10, but you're at home. You have a chance to go up 2 scores going halftime. I probably would have kicked it in the moment on my couch. I was saying, they need to kick the field goal right here. Throw it in the end zone with no timeouts left. I didn't understand that. And then I thought Cincinnati came out in the second half and their defense, showed up. They took it to the Chiefs. They gave up, I think, 83 yards in the second half. It was a pretty low number. The Chiefs couldn't convert a third down. And whatever change-ups they made, it's hard to tell on the TV broadcast, but clearly that secondary was confusing Patrick Mahomes there in the second half. And then Patrick Mahomes had some moments there late where he took 2 sacks at the end of the game in the red zone rather than get the ball out and try to score a touchdown. And 2 of those, he was just running around trying to make a play. So sometimes that backfires. And I just, credit to the Bengals. I thought it was over at 21-3. I was like, this game's going to be a blowout. And somehow, some way, Joe Burrow made the plays. His offense coordinator didn't help him. They were running the ball every single 1st and 10 for, it seemed like a yard. So he was in 2nd and 9 every single drive. But Joe Burrow made the plays when he needed to make it. He was sacked a couple of times there by Chris Jones and somehow got out of there, scrambling for first downs. He was running for his life. He clearly didn't look 100% after the beating he took last week, but he willed that team to victory. And that's impressive for a second-year quarterback to take the Bengals. The Bengals are in the Super Bowl. I can't believe I just said that.
And Lou Anarumo, I don't know how to say his last name, but he is a defensive coordinator. And I want the same people who were banging the table for DeMeco Ryans to get more interviews and all this stuff like that. Do the same thing for this guy. I know he did an interview with the Giants, but the second half, I mean, they just really executed defensively beautifully, and they kept him in the game. And I thought that Tyreek Hill at the end, that once. Well, I think it was 6 seconds left or 5 seconds left. And you mentioned them not kicking the field goal there and trying to go for a touchdown. It has to be something really quick or just throw it out of bounds. Even if you throw it in the dirt and take the penalty, it's still well within Butker's range. So I thought that was a bad play. I thought Tyreek Hill, he was lateral. It was almost like a lateral pass to him on the left side. Once he left the ground, I mean, I thought it was an easy play for the defense. I thought if he just put his head down, maybe he could have broke a tackle. He's so elusive. Maybe he got into the end zone, but tough play there. Eli Apple made the play there. He also could have had a pick six to end the game in overtime. I thought that would have come back to haunt him, but I think when you look at this team, their safeties, the safety play they get from Bates and Bell, I think that's the biggest thing in this game. They just do a great job of that. We've seen it twice this year when the Bengals played the Raiders. Both of those two guys in the back allow them to be as aggressive as they want everywhere else, and they're able to just kind of keep the big plays from going over the top of their head. I think they only hit one big play to Coleman. McCole Hartman, I should say, on a double move, but they did a good job of just hanging around, just keeping that that back half, the lid on the top of that defense.
Yeah, the safeties came to play. Bates might be the best free safety in football. I put him right there with Justin Simmons. He'll get a contract accordingly this offseason. I believe he's going to get franchise tag by the Bengals. But the Bengals added a lot of free agents to that defense. A lot of the work that went into that front office acquired this year with Hendrickson. Mike Hilton might be one of the top 3 slots with Kenny Moore in the league. Still, the way to beat them is you got to beat those outside corners, and then the linebackers underneath didn't have a very good game covering running backs, covering the tight end. But yeah, Eli Apple, Raiders legend, Eli Apple, who failed his physical, was another Mike Mayock potential signing, which didn't happen. But I didn't think he did much today. He didn't really show up other than the penalty in the end zone, but he made the tackle on the play at the end of the half and then dropped the pick six. He talks a lot on Twitter, but
he loves Twitter, boy.
He loves it.
He loves it.
It's funny when you just go to his account, but he likes to talk. But he's in the Super Bowl. He can talk. I don't want to know what happens when they play next year. He was going after Tyreek Hill there on Twitter a little bit, calling him baby cheetah and stuff like that today. I'm not sure I'd do that to Tyreek Hill, but the Bengals defense, at the end of the day, they gave up 24, but they held them down in the second half when they had to. And like you said, I don't know how they're winning with that offensive line. It amazes me that they can win with what looks like the worst offensive line in the league.
You can't win, but you can't win without a good, great offensive line, right? You have to have an elite offensive line in order to win.
I didn't want to go
right?
there. That's kind of why I said they gave up 24 and they have a terrible offensive line, but I'm not going to go there on this podcast. But Joe Burrow, he did it. Credit to him. That's my miss. I thought he was Alex Smith. I was wrong. I'm gonna take that one with me. That was my scouting miss when he came out. I wasn't all on board the Joe Burrow train. I liked Herbert, who I might not be wrong on either, but Joe Burrow's in the Super Bowl, and they have a chance. They have a chance to beat the Rams if they can come out and move the ball. They're explosive. It's going to be a good game. We'll see what happens, but credit to them. Who dey?
Who'd have thought? Now Raider fans can say, "Hey, look, we lost to the champs." I mean, my goodness, we lost to the champs.
That's not how it works.
That is not how it works. I do feel a lot. Every time T. Higgins makes a play, because when I say people on that Bird app were just telling me he's slow. You can't look at his 40 time.
Doesn't get separation.
Separation. That's the S word out here in football land. But I just love 6 catches. For 100 and 103 yards, 17 per, and then 10 out of 10 targets. He would have had a touchdown if he wasn't getting handcuffed in the end zone. I'm not sure how that wasn't. It was a one-handed, because when I watched the game, I was like, why is he going for a one-handed catch? Oh, his other hand is being grabbed by the defender. Didn't get called for anything as far as that goes. Yeah, the Bengals did it, and a great job by them. Tyreek Hill, I mean, for him to have 7 catches for 78 yards is right where you want him to have. You don't want him to have anything more than that. So good job by them. And this was the game where we didn't get to see the other players like Pringle, like Robinson, like Hartman. They weren't able to shine and do what T. Higgins did, right? Give him, we'll do what Shaman P. Ryan did. Shamar P. Ryan did and making a big play on that screen pass. So good job by the Bengals. Can't say enough about Zach Taylor and what they did and what they accomplished. Really impressive work by them.
Oh, definitely. And to me, to tie this in kind of the Raiders, I think the way you see T. Higgins being used by the Bengals is how Brian Edwards needs to be used. They're similar.
Yes.
Higgins is a little bit longer, but in breaking routes, crossing routes. But the Bengals don't have a guy that works the middle of the field. They don't have a Renfro. They don't have a Waller. So that you see T. Higgins running all that. So hopefully the Raiders' new offense can incorporate some of the routes that T. Higgins runs, because I think that's what you need to do with Brian Edwards.
Yeah, no question about it. Niners, Rams, 2017. And I know people are like, throughout the game when the Niners went up 10, my pro Shanahan people were going crazy on filling up my DMs. But I'll say this: neither team could really run the ball. But in the game, I thought it was, and we talked about it before, it was critical for the Rams to stop the Niners running game. Deebo Samuel, 7 carries, 26 yards. Elijah Mitchell, 11 carries, 20 yards. Juszczyk had 1 yard. Had 1 carry, 0 yards. Like, that's what you have to do against the Shanahan offense. You cannot allow him to run the football because everything he does is predicated off of the run. And I give the Rams front, I give Raheem Morris a lot of credit for that. And in this game, he did a great job stopping the run. And the result was they ended up winning this game. Allowing them to come back and win this game, because if they didn't stop the run, I don't think there's any way they come back and win this game.
Oh, that was the key. They had to force Garoppolo to make plays, and he did at times. Credit to him until that last series. But you saw them kind of cover up the center. You saw them go three big down linemen, and keep the 2 outside backers and Miller and Floyd out there. So they basically had a 5-man front that helped them stop the run. That the 49ers saw the weakness on the defense was Reeder, the linebacker, who had a terrible game.
Oh, he was horrible.
He was horrible in most aspects, pass coverage, run defense. But they made the stops when they needed to. Old man Eric Weddle led the team in tackles. I don't know where that came from, but he had 9 tackles, and he stuck his face in there a couple times. And in the secondary, Jalen Ramsey, did what he could on the outside, and Ayuk got free. But you got to force Jimmy G to throw the ball outside the numbers, but continually, he just throws the ball over the middle field.
It's amazing.
I don't know why teams can't make that adjustment. It's probably harder than it sounds, because it's not a typical type of coverage that you're going to run. But then they got pressure on Jimmy G late, and you saw the late turnover. He almost had 2 or 3 interceptions earlier in the game. But credit to that Rams defense that they stepped up after Stafford gave them the lead, and they got the turnover to win the game, and now they get to host the Super Bowl in their own house.
Do you feel like this is and this, people are going to say, Dwayne, I'm not piling on Shanahan. I think Shanahan's a good coach. No question about it. But Kyle, like, this is kind of like maybe like the kind of the 3rd spot where he's had a lead late in the game, not closing out an opponent. Do you think this is just a thing, or just a bad situation for him in that? 'Cause I thought maybe, after they get that sack, I think they got that sack above the 2-minute warning. I would have been calling timeouts there to try to kind of,
on defense, yeah.
On defense, yeah, just to give, because your offense is not a quick strike offense. Like, what I'm saying? And they're not going to give you a screen pass to Deebo Samuel for a touchdown in that spot. So thoughts about Kyle, the way he kind of managed that game. I mean, to score a lead in the 4th quarter, I mean, you would think that he would kind of find a way, because his defense for the 2nd week in a row gave him a great opportunity to win.
Yeah, I don't think this all falls on Shanahan. I just don't think he had the quarterback in this situation. He needs to finish those kind of games, so he kind of has to manufacture stuff around Jimmy. And I do question the use of the timeouts there. He let 32 seconds run off the clock when he could have used it. They had to delay a game, I think, with about 5 or 6 minutes left on offense that put him in a 1st and 15 that led to a punt. So there was some late play calls getting in, some questionable decisions on when to use the timeouts. But, losing to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, I'm not going to say, that's going to make or break a coach. They're probably going to look back on this one. But Matthew Stafford at the end of the day made some great throws to Cooper Kupp there at the end of the game. And, I think Jimmy G played his last snap. I know Shanahan didn't want to address it, but I'm pretty sure Jimmy G's done. And we'll see what he can do with Trey Lance. Now Shanahan has the quarterback, the athletic, mobile guy. We'll see what he can do with him. And I have a sneaky suspicion that, a lot of people are talking about Aaron Rodgers to Denver. I think that could be a landing spot for Jimmy G now that Nathaniel Hackett's over there. who runs a similar type of offense, Matt LaFleur's offense, coming over from San Francisco. So don't sleep on Jimmy G to the Broncos.
Yeah. Um, I, I think that would be a good. I think that would be. I mean, that could be a move that they have to make, because I don't know if the big time quarterback is getting traded in this offseason. I think it's just a. I mean, when you factor in and Madden, you can kind of make it work. In real life, it's just like you're dealing with real life situations with and money and I just don't dead money, all those things like that, things that fans don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about dead money. They don't want to talk about all those things like that actually really affect the salary cap. So to me, I just don't know if any of those big time quarterbacks are gonna get traded. I thought a sneaky play of the game or ball game game ball goes to Kendall Blanton. I thought he made some really good plays in this game, backup tight end for them. And just look at the numbers for Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. 11 catches, 142 yards for Cooper Kupp, 2 touchdowns, and then some Odell Beckham Jr. 9 catches for 113 yards. He's washed. I heard somebody on Twitter told me he was washed. I did want to see the penalties in this game. I'm looking at the thing real quick if I can find the penalties. I thought I would have been okay. I don't know if it was Jimmy. I think was it Jimmy Ward who made that head-to-head play on Odell Beckham. I would have been okay if they threw him out. Like I would have been through him.
That was a cheap shot.
That was a 100% a cheap shot play. He had no intention of a tackle there. He put his head down to try to hurt Odell Beckham on that play. And say what you want about Odell Beckham or whatever. I'm all for like good hits in football games, but if they did the college rule and just threw him out, I would have had no problem with it. I thought that play was just dirty and disgusting. At that point, I was really pulling for the Rams to win that game because that drove me crazy as far as that goes. Did the Rams save their coach in this one? Because he was a little all over the place with his usage of the red flag, if you will, in this one.
Yeah, he got desperate there. He was throwing stuff that wasn't even close as far as challenges.
Yeah.
Got a little conservative there, calling some screens. But at the end of the day, I want to touch on the Jimmy Ward. I thought it was a cheap shot. I thought Fred Warner ejected in the first year if New York buzzed in because he took a cheap shot to the back of Stafford's head after an interception. I thought the 49ers wanted to show they were physical. I thought they played really neat today. I saw several instances where they dove late into piles, were taking late hits, and finally they called taunting. I think that should have been a late hit anyways on number 51, the linebacker on Kupp on the sidelines. But I think that it's not Bountygate or anything, but I clearly think the 49ers are taking a ton of cheap shots in that game just to kind of send a message, and easily could have had Warner and Ward ejected during this game for some of that stuff that they did. As far as Sean McVay, I think they let him off the hook there, his team winning that game, because he would not live it down with some of the mistakes he made in the fourth quarter. I think both of these guys, you kind of saw the Gruden come out of them. They were both Gruden guys that came up, get conservative late, kind of got tight there at the end of the game, and then one team just made more plays than the other. But it was an entertaining game. I enjoyed it. I liked watching them come back down 10. I wanted the Rams to win. I'm in LA. I'm not a Rams fan, but I'm about 2 miles from their training facility. I've seen some of their players at the grocery store. Just rooting for the hometown team at this point with the Raiders out of it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this was the best possible result. That was a couple years ago when it was Niners Chiefs. As a Raider fan, that was almost impossible to root for anybody in that one. I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll come back. We'll talk about the Raiders and just kind of our instant reactions to them picking Ziegler and McDaniels as their new head coach. We'll be right back. Back on the Pull On Raiders podcast, Dwayne Douglas here along with Ryan Holmes. And Ryan, seems like the search is over. The Raiders have picked a new head coach. The New England Raiders here, they picked a new head coach. They got Ziegler and Josh McDaniels here as their head coach. So I am just some quick pros and cons. I think one thing is it's easier for us as fans to see what the offensive coordinator does as far as, hey, this guy might be a good fit for what we do, and I like the way he runs his offense. But when it comes to the kind of the assistant GM, we don't know where his hits or his misses were. Like, we don't know that part. We weren't nobody like whenever they show the draft room, Ryan, it's always like no, it's just video. There's no actual audio there. So you can't. I mean, he could have been talking to Belichick into a player that turns out to be good, or he could have been banging the table for a guy who was a bust in the first round or second round. So what are your initial thoughts about the situation here with the Raiders and their new GM and their new head coach?
Yeah, my initial thought with Dave Ziegler being hired is I didn't do a lot of research into him when I was looking at potential GM candidates. I was a big Ed Dowds guy, and I think a lot of that had to do with kind of the success they had in Seattle, the drafts they've had in Indianapolis, and obviously the Raider ties. Do I know if he's a better personnel man than Dave Ziegler? No, none of us know that. We don't know what
Yeah.
Dave Ziegler was doing, but the more I looked into Dave Ziegler, coaching background, this guy was an extra on Law and Order SVU. I watched that show religiously, so I have to figure out season 8, that episode, and see if I can see him. He's been a position coach. He's been a high school coach. He's been a college coach. He's been a scout. He's been a director of college scouting. He's been a director of player personnel. This guy's worked his way up. So he clearly has an idea of what the front office structure needs to look like. He can put a staff together. He's been in a winning environment for a long time. The Broncos tried to interview him last year, and he was a finalist for that job before they went with George Patton. So this is a name that's been around the league. This isn't a guy that was just like handpicked. Oh, he's McDaniel's guys. We're going to get him. I think he deserves to be a GM of any team, let alone the Raiders. It just so happens that he's tied to Josh McDaniels because they went to college together and they're buddies. As far as the McDaniels hire, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm not like on one end of the spectrum like it seems like Twitter is. I'm in the minority where I actually think he's a better hire than Jim Harbaugh. This is just my personal opinion, just because for me, Harbaugh has been in college for 7 years. The league's changed dramatically over the last 7 years as far as the pass link, the formations, and things that are going on around the NFL, the trends. So Harbaugh hasn't been around that. And Josh McDaniels has. And the biggest thing I think McDaniels brings is the adaptability within the offense. This is not going to be the Greg Olson offense where they're running the same 4 running plays every week, no matter who the opponent is. They're going to mix things up. 1 week they're going to run zone. 1 week it's going to be power. 1 week they're going to be, using a different running back. They're going to be using different receivers, and they can build this offense to be a spread offense, but then it can be a power run offense depending on the elements. So that's something we haven't seen. He doesn't have a quote unquote system. They run a lot of different things, and they can switch it up week to week. I think the one thing that Raider fans are going to have to kind of look at here is I don't see Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler going out and spending a ton of money on the wide receiver one. This is their time in New England. They haven't had that. They've built the offense around the tight ends, the running game, the offensive line, the defense, the slot receiver. So the Raider fans, I think they're going to go out and take a receiver in the first round and go out and get Devontae Adams or one of these big name guys. I don't see that happening. I think they'll go out and get some veteran receivers. I think Odell Beckham has made a ton of money this offseason. I think he might be out of the Raiders' price range at this point because I don't see that group. That group needs to upgrade the offensive line. And what does Josh McDaniels think of Alex Leatherwood? We don't know. Maybe he doesn't even like Leatherwood. Leatherwood might have to switch positions. I clearly don't think he's going back to tackle, but Josh McDaniels will fix the offensive line because they have to run the football. That's what they want to do. But they also need a good defense. So for me, I'm holding judgment here on the coaching staff until I see what the staff looks like. Who's the offensive line coach? Who's the defensive coordinator? Are they going to a 3-4? I see a lot of stuff back and forth on Twitter about, well, they can't run a 3-4. They absolutely can. They have the pieces to do it. They only need to add 2 or 3 guys. The best thing about, again, bringing over Jared Mayo or Wink Martindale, if it's Martindale, you need a couple of corners because they're going to play man and blitz a lot. If it's Mayo, you're going to see a lot of man. You're going to see a lot of different types of bracket coverages. They're going to double team guys, which I haven't seen a Raiders defense actually double team a top weapon from another team in a long time. So I am intrigued about the options of what the staff's going to look like. When I look around like Matt Eberflus, some of the guys he's putting together, I'm like scratching my head. Like I think Josh McDaniels is going to put together a good staff. I just don't want it to be Patriots West. Like I don't need Bill O'Brien. I don't need Matt Patricia and 17 other Joe Judges and Patriots assistants. I think you're good. Get some young blood in there, but also go get Brian Flores, get Wink Martindale, get
Mhm.
Jared Mayo, get a top defensive coordinator to come in here and run this defense, because I do like what McDaniels can bring to the offense.
And I do think that what the Patriots have done, and I think, you look at Belichick, and one thing that I do like about what he does is he's not afraid to have younger minds around him. And then not and just not have guys who are yes men. Like, he's okay with having guys who, don't see eye to eye with what he sees. And he lets him, and like that whole model of like, hey, do your job. He does let them roll with it. And then obviously he's the head coach, so he comes in and chimes in when he feels like chiming in. But it just, it makes, I mean, he does come in and does say, hey, he picks his head into the offensive room and says, hey, what about this? What about that? And I think I like one thing I liked about what Belichick said. It was like, sometimes I'll say something and say, maybe we should do this. He'll tell me no and fully explain to me why that wouldn't work for this week. Like, that is something that the guy can call plays. My biggest thing is, people need to get over is the leadership part of it. And then he has to show that he can lead a football team. Is he smart enough to game plan a game against the Broncos week 1? Yeah. I don't think there's any question about that. But can he do it? Can he, there's other things that go on with being a head coach that he has to deal with, and we'll see if he's able to deal with it. As far as that goes. I know it'd be nice to.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the big thing with him, like you said, is the leadership. He's got to come in, and got early. If he's come in, I don't think he's going to come in and do the Patriot way and be an ass, kind of like Belichick. Because if you don't win right away, you're going to lose the locker room doing that. I think he's learned a lot. 12 years is a long time. Like, I'm trying to think about what I was doing 12 years ago, and how I've grown and changed, and just having that growth mindset. So I think we just need to give him a chance. A lot of coaches have had success the second time, and we'll see. I mean, the jury's out. This could fail miserably, but this could be a home run hire.
Yeah.
So Mark Davis is swinging forward here. I do think that you're going to see some changes, obviously, to the roster on the offensive side. I think you're going to see another bigger back. Josh, they like those bigger backs that can wear down defenses, the LeGarrette Blunts, the Rhamondre Stevensons. The running backs do a lot of special team stuff. So I don't think Jalen Richard comes back. I don't think he fits here. I think you have that guy in Kenyon Drake for next year, but I do think they're going to add another bigger physical back. You're going to get another blocking tight end in here. I don't know if you can run out there Derek Carey as your third tight end. He just doesn't give you much in the run game as much person they're going to run here. And then clearly, they're going to need to upgrade at the wide receiver spot too.
Yeah. The process. So it sounds like this was the number one guy. He went through the whole process with the Rooney Rule and everything like that. Got those candidates done. Do you feel like it was kind of the same situation as far as with Gruden? Just kind of a younger version of it?
And now that we know who the hire is, just start looking back and put the pieces together of who they interviewed, when they interviewed him, and why they interviewed him. And it's clear that Josh McDaniels was the number one target from day one. And it seems like, McDaniels, and I'm just guessing here, I'm hypothetically off just trying to figure it out, that he told the Raiders that he was interested, but wait till, he's out of the playoffs, which clearly they got knocked out early. But Mark Davis had an idea. He fired the GM the day after the season.
Yeah.
And the first name we heard was Dave Ziegler. And then you hear Jared Mayo's the first head coaching. So there's two ties. Jared Mayo wouldn't surprise me if he comes in as the defense coordinator. Who was the second guy they interviewed? Champ Kelly, who has ties to Dave Ziegler and McDaniels from Denver. So when you start looking at all the guys they interviewed, Trey Brown was kind of, I think that was more of a Rooney Rule, but they probably do have interest in him in some capacity. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either Champ Kelly or Trey Brown come over as like an assistant GM or a director in one of the scouting departments. But clearly, most of the guys they interviewed aligned back to McDaniels. Now looking back at it, we just didn't hear his name until McDaniels already knew he was getting the job, basically, until he committed to the interview. And he wanted the structure of the front office a certain way, and it probably took, Mark Davis probably interviewed a couple people, and then he agreed with kind of the way those people wanted to go. And then he interviewed a couple more people outside of that just to see what else was out there. And then he immediately went back to McDaniels and said, okay, I'm going to do
Yeah.
whatever he wants me to do to bring him in here. Now, they did satisfy the Rooney Rule. I do think Todd Bowles was a fallback option if he didn't like what he heard from McDaniels and he didn't want to agree with the structure that McDaniels wanted. But who else did they interview, like for the head coaching job? It was literally Bisaccia, Bowles, Mayo, and McDaniel. That was it.
That was it.
And Mayo could have been interviewing for the defensive coordinator job for all we know. So
Exactly.
when you look back at it, like it pretty much everything pointed at him. He was just never connected to the Raiders until within the last week.
Yeah. So I mean, Mark Davis gets his guy there. Tomorrow could probably applaud them for having that whole thing leak on Sunday when the league loves that. The league
an hour before kickoff. Yeah.
The league absolutely loves it. I mean, Jesus, I can see I can see it now. Like, week one, the Patriots do come to Allegiant. So might as well get that's a possible, Raider Patriot. It's going to happen. Patriot game right there. So, as far as that goes, but we'll see what happens with him. Obviously the red zone, he did. I think this year was probably his finest work, if you will. It wasn't Brady. It was, it wasn't even Matt Castle. I'm not sure. I don't think he was the offense coordinator when they had Castle. I don't remember if he was or not, but
he was.
He was. Great year by Castle that year anyway. But this was a rookie quarterback who had really good numbers. The team had really good numbers in the red zone. First thing they're going to say is, oh, they can run the ball in the red zone. But what I appreciate about the Patriots is the game plan is different for each opponent. Like they really do a good job of that. Like they don't just say, hey, we're going to do this way and that's it. And that's what we do. Like they change it up all the time. And you might not get the same when you play them twice in 1 year, you might not get the same look that you got the first game. And I would love to see a Raider defense take away, Tyreek Hill and then force the ball down and force the ball to Kelsey and just gang tackle him till maybe, 4 or 5 yard gains and stuff like that instead of giving up, free releases all the time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there as far as what the Raiders do. It sounds like he had a detailed plan for Carr, Moreau, and Waller. That was some of what they said as far as that goes from some of the insiders out there as well. So Pelissero and Rap Sheet were all over it. They got this thing. They got all the news and notes for the Raider fans as far as that goes. Details probably coming out, who knows, Monday or Tuesday. But on the Raiders have a head coach. Have head coach coming in, Josh McDaniels. I don't think this time the plane's going to turn around and go to New England. I think he's going to stay and be the next Raider head coach. Any final thoughts about that before we head out on this instant reaction?
Yeah, 2 quick thoughts. I think Patrick Graham, I looked into him a little bit today. He did spend a lot of time in New England. I didn't know that.
That's my guy, dude.
A lot of time.
That is my guy, dude. That is my guy.
6 or 7 years.
I love him. I love him.
So let's hope he doesn't get the Vikings job and that he does want to come coach because I would love to bring him in.
Yeah.
And then my second thought is, I don't remember the last time I saw a Raiders team play with attention to detail. Know your assignment, know what's going on around you, being taught the little things. Like I was reading up on McDaniels and Belichick was talking about we'd run a play this way because we know that the principles of the defense we're going against are asking the blockers to do this. And they're like game planning around the scheme of the other team, specifically because they do certain things a certain way. And then the penalties. Like if Josh McDaniels can clean it up and get rid of the penalties, and the Raiders are in the middle of the pack. I'm not asking to be like the least penalized. If they can be 15th in the league in penalties, that's going to go a long way because I do think there are limitations with his offense if the Raiders continue to get false starts and holding penalties because he's not going to scheme up stuff on 3rd and 12, 2nd and 15. But if they can keep the chains, the down and distance right, I think that you're going to see the Raiders offense move and be effective. They were average like 25 or 26 points a game this year. They were towards the top of the league in that, but I just can't imagine what it's going to look like. Cause I used to watch the Patriots. I'm like, why is Wes Welker? Why is Julian Edelman getting matched up against a linebacker? What are these defenses doing?
That's what they do.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Hunter Renfrow to start eating on linebackers. Cause he's already doing it at the corners. Like getting, tight ends running across the field wide open. And you're like, how does that happen? Like, I can't wait for a Raiders offense to actually have guys running wide open and actually scheme them open.
And I can't wait to see our best players catch touchdown passes in the end zone like other teams. I think that's that's the one thing I can't wait for. I don't know how we have weapon like Waller, weapon like Renfro, and we just struggled in the red zone so mightily. So, but I understand, it was even when, I mean, Gruden's supposed to be, whatever, but Gruden's gone. We won't talk about that. Listen, all right. So we'll try to hit you up later in the week with some more details on everything once it's finalized. But appreciate Ryan as always. We'll see you next time when the Put on Raiders podcast. The Super Bowl is set. It's the Bengals. Just like everybody said, it's the Bengals and Rams. Bengals and Rams out here in SoFi.
Yep, that's what I had on my bingo card.
Yeah,
Here, so
exactly.
Exactly. All right,
Exactly.
take care.
Take care.